So for me, I feel like there is a challenge with bringing in material that people are interested in seeing, making it relevant, and um, making it something that gets people talking about things that they normally wouldn't talk about. So, for the African American community, I was really appreciative of The Wiz and the connections that it drew related to African Americans and mental health, African Americans and community support around mental health, African American male vulnerability and how vulnerability equals strength, um, just kind of explaining different points of view um, for us as a community to kind of look and see um, something that we haven't seen before, help us with modeling behaviors that we hadn't seen before. And how do we do these things? You can't expect for people to do something that they've never seen. They have to be able to see it to have a an understanding of how to, oh, excuse me, even begin to move forward. And so I see that with a lot of different, you know, things like the hip hop Nutcracker. This was really amazing. I'm waiting on a friend to do um, the black excuse me, the black version of Alice in Wonderland, 2015 or 2016. That would be amazing. Um, because I think it's important for young black children to also kind of be able to find themselves in the magic of life. And a lot of times, Disney doesn't allow for that to happen, or they do, and it's, you know, like the princess is a frog for the majority of the movie, and so it's hard for you to really wrap your mind around like how beautiful you are. Like, it's hard to, like Princess and the Swan, um, is the concept essentially. But when you don't have that many role models to begin with, that's where that kind of can get a little bit murky. That you have to create a model that is even greater than the regular kind of model of what it should look like. You know, and part of that is, we've been told our entire lives that we had to work 2 to 3 times harder than our white counterparts. So whereas white women have to work, twice as hard, and so they have things that they have to shed, and certain kind of ways in which they view the world, and da da da. Like they may have blind spots around race and that kind of stuff. For African Americans, ours is marred, is one that's marred in pain and trauma, and so it's hard to see what we've never had, um, in terms of. So you have to think about it. It's like even in terms of like the idea of being able to get married and getting a marriage license and creating family. Like we created family before we were and created our own marriages and how we define them before we were able to have an official like marriage certificate. Like it doesn't really mean that much to us. It does, like now we've kind of, fallen into like this is what you do, this is what society says you do. You go down to the courthouse and you get a marriage license and then you're married. But then we have to kind of go back and think about what it was like before that was possible, and what did black love look like? What did love between a man and a woman look like before we came along with this, before we bought into like this American kind of system of this is what how you get married, like we were getting married in a back shack and you jump the broom and now you're married, you know there you have it. So, I think looking at the black community and, you know, relationships, they have to be looked at a little bit differently than you would um, non African American relationships. There's a special kind of relationship there, in the same way that there would be special ways that you would look at it if you were looking at it, talking about like an Indian reservation, and how Native Americans are in relationship with one another. That is a completely different culture that, it's really important for us to understand spiritually and, physically and emotionally, kind of what their world experience is like, so that we can best help them according to and that's the reason why it's better to have, Native American therapists working with Native American communities, because there's a different level of kind of understanding, uh, that, you know, yes, I'm a person of color, but I am not a Native American person of color. So I don't know what that is like. And so for me to try to go onto a, Indian reservation and tell them how to like help their communities is absurd, right? Because I don't know. I don't necessarily know what exactly they're dealing with. I can tell you from the outside perspective, from the outside view, kind of like what I see, but I can't tell you how solutions to fix it. I can't even tell you if those are the problems. Maybe they're not. Maybe there's like deeper issues, that kind of run deeper than that, and all I see is surface level because I'm not a part of this community. I don't really kind of get a chance to be the fly on the wall inside of the home to know kind of what the real problems and problems and challenges are. So there's that. Um, yeah, I think it's absolutely critical for us to recognize difference in the way that it does color and shape how we show up for people, for clients, for students, for, anyone in society. It just really does matter. It's important. Um, and to say that it's not is to live in a world of denial, and in a world where, we want to make it to rewrite the story to where we are the hero, and to make sure that it's important that we magnify voices, other people's voices, so they can tell their own stories. We can be the hero of our own story, but we can't be the hero of other people's stories, of other communities' stories, and that is the whole idea of kind of like this whole inclusion is and that, I would love to get to a point where the words diversity and inclusion don't exist, because they're just a natural part of the fabric, right? So in certain cultures, certain words don't exist because they're just a natural part of, you know, existence. I would love to get to a place where, um, when we say community, we just naturally mean everyone, you know, that there is only inclusion. So it makes no sense for there to not, like, I don't know how to explain it. I would like to live in a, like, so, when I wake up in the morning, a lot of times I don't necessarily, say I'm grateful for air, even though I'm absolutely grateful for air, right? It's always there, it's always present, but like, because it's always there and it's always present, it's just something that I just don't think about. I don't think like, oh, air, yes, air. That's it, and that's how I want for the words diversity and inclusion to be, to where it is an ingrained part of our fabric, to the point where, it just doesn't make any sense. It does not make sense that people would not be included. You know what I mean? Like, to where that just isn't a part of people's consciousness. Um, to where people are like, of course, you can have a seat at the table. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of food here at this table. Like, yes, come on and sit. Let's commune together, and let's really talk about, solutions, and how we want to move forward, and everybody's opinion is important. So let's try to work on this, and let's be honest in our communication, and supportive and loving and caring toward one another, so that we can really, come to some sustainable, long term, foundational kind of solutions. So where even if it doesn't end up working out, it's adaptable enough to be able to move and flow and ebb and flow with like over time, right? Because it's not something that's written in stone. It's something that is allowed to change over time. We call it a work in progress, or you know, and I like the idea of like not being married to ideas, right? Because a lot of times we're standing on the Bible as a way to really kind of understand problems and issues and all of that. And I think it's funny because like the divorce rate is so high. And so one of the things that you hear in our society a lot is, "Oh, I'm not married to the idea." Right? Like, here's the idea. I could divorce from this idea because I'm not married to it. You know what I mean? And like, when did we start using that term? I'm not married to this idea. Isn't that funny? Like, isn't it weird that like now that's a part of our like when did that start happening? When did that become a part of like a natural phase, right? Like, where did the phrases come from? Cheerio, or pip pip, or things that are kind of like widespread, like what's up, or like at some point someone had to have said this and someone had to have agreed that this was like a thing that we're going to say, and then all of a sudden like everyone's saying this thing and it's just a natural part of the discourse and a natural part of the conversation, and nobody really questions where it came from or why we do it. I think it's really important not to say that it's going to solve all the problems, but it will explain behavior. And if it explains the behavior, then maybe it opens the door to be able to change that behavior. And if that's the case, that's amazing. Regardless if the behavior changes or not, it doesn't hurt anybody. So let's go ahead and just move forward with it and see what it brings. It's not harmful. So let's just try it. Let's try something different so that we can see if we can get different results. And those different results might be amazing. That's all I'm saying. All right.